Yeah, no, but what's the name of it? No.
Sorry, is there a difference of it?
Yes.
You come in?
He's going to come in for the accessibility to vehicles and they're not going to be the best.
Right. Welcome to the General Health and Safety and General Affairs Committee 2013, the first one, the first new news of the year. Anybody got any interest? Councillor?
Yes, thank you. It's first of all, I'm prejudicial interest in item number 6 with regard to the DPPO in Ferry. Personally, in that I am the council for the area, prejudicial in that I have publicly supported the idea of DPPO in Ferry, and also I was one of the consultees with regard to consultation by virtue of being chair of the Ferry Management Committee. Sorry, I don't know what to say, Chair, but obviously I won't take part in the vote, but I would like to address the committee more candidly.
Councillor?
I want to declare a non-conditional interest in item 6 as the ward councillor.
Okay. Anyone? No? I think it might be appropriate now, because we're walking around the room, there is some councillors, isn't there? Apologies there. And Dennis Roberts is the advertising of that house. Okay? So that's that. The minutes from 20th of March. And that's the line. Read this line. Read Now, before I proceed, Mr. Grace, are you filming this tonight? Has anyone got any problems with Mr. Grace filming this? Okay. All those in favour of allowing this meeting to be filmed? I have no problem, but I will say this, that if those case, can say there's no problem there, but during the course of the meeting, if we run into any exempt information or personal information, then I'll ask you to stop. Okay. And probably you may have to be there before we go. Okay?
Sorry, could you say that a bit louder? I couldn't quite hear you.
But obviously,
Yes.
but during the course of the meeting, if we get on any exempt information or personal information of anybody, we'll ask you to stop. And we may, if it's exempt, ask you to leave the go. Along with any other members of the public.
Thanks.
Not just you.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, I understand the licensing side also wishes to address the committee, so it might be worth asking him whether he would do so.
You've got any objections, sir?
No objections.
No objections. Right. First business, Vice Chair.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Stephen Midcock for the Vice Chair.
A second to that. Councillor Bruce Roberts. Agreed?
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay, next business, Province License Panel.
The committee has a call which is
find out who's going to sit on it's a taxi panel now.
Yeah, I know that I've had an email saying that Council Blakely and Council Lewis can't do it, so I don't know whether it has to be people off this committee or just
No.
no, that's fine then. So I'll speak to our office and that's all.
Thanks very much.
Can I just ask them about the recommendation to be accepted, subject to the details being...
I'll propose it second.
Okay, everybody second?
Yeah.
Okay, agreed? Agreed. Okay. Next item of business, okay, item 6.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report was for members to consider the response to consultation that has taken place in respect of designation of an area within New Ferry as being subject to a designated public places order and to determine whether such an order should be made. As detailed within the report, this results from a petition that was submitted to full council in July of last year and evidence provided by Merseyside Police in December of last year and the identification of a number of streets within New Ferry that should be designated as a public places order. As a result of the petition and a meeting of this committee, approval was given to consult on such an order, and that has taken place, and the results of that consultation have been circulated via the report to all members. As indicated in the responses, there is support from Merseyside Police in respect of such a designation, and a letter from the Chief Superintendent John Martin has been included within the report. And I can advise members that Sergeant Byron is here this evening to represent Merseyside Police and to address the committee as part of your consideration as to whether or not to make a resolution to have such an order for the area within New Ferry. It is reported within the responses that there's also been a further proposal by Councillor Niblock in relation to the area to be designated, and Councillor Niblock is here this evening in respect of his representations.
Thank you. At this point, would you like to hear from the police at this point? Would you like to? Could you just state your name? I'm not here, not better, but somebody in the council.
Thank you. My name is Simon Berrigan. I'm the Police Licensing Sergeant for the Wirral. Really, I just want to reiterate the words of Chief Superintendent John Martin. He has submitted a letter in support of this application. He, like I, fully supports the introduction of a designated public places order for the proposed area and would like to see it introduced as quickly as possible. He and I believe it to be a proportionate and necessary measure to deal with ongoing problems suffered by residents and businesses and would assist the policing of the area. and it does have a significant effect on reducing alcohol-related antisocial behaviour and crime and disorder in those areas. New Ferry is an area that has had issues with the drinking of alcohol in public places and alcohol-related antisocial behaviour, alcohol-related crime and disorder. If we were to have a designated public places order in this area, it would be greatly beneficial to us, to the local residents and to local businesses.
Okay, any questions? Thank you. No questions? No officers? No? No? Okay.
Thank you.
And we'll seek recommendation.
Steve. Go on then. What about you? Yes, sit down there.
Just quiet.
I know. I'm shy. Yes, thank you for giving me the opportunity to address the committee. This is something that has been long in the coming. We've had problems with drinking for a number of years now, and the community, led by the police, actually rallied round to support the petition which was represented at council. It hasn't been helped. I approached last night by a resident who asked me if I'd seen a holding article in the Echo. Whether or not it was the same New Ferry that was portrayed in this, given that the actual picture is obviously night-clubbing yobs, which the headline refers to, and it's not what we're actually talking about. We are talking about adult street drinkers, where it can not the kind of city centre violence that's portrayed in this picture, of God knows where it is, because it's not New Ferry for a start. So, unfortunately, I'm invited to the editor to complain about this article, because it does mark up the cause, particularly of New Ferry. I had an email last night from one of the local residents imploring me to do all I could to actually get the DPO in place. So I would request that you consider the consultation secret and hope that you would support the DPO for New Ferry. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Chair, just to assist members, in consideration, it is within the report, but in considering whether or not to appoint a designated public places order, your criteria really is to consider whether or not you're satisfied that nuisance or disorder has occurred in that area connected with the consumption of alcohol. So that's what the consideration is in making that determination for a designated public places order. Also, to advise that the consultation that was undertaken is reflected in a street plan on page 31 of the report, which sets out it's part of Appendix 2 and it's on page 31, and that is the area that you must consider this evening.
Okay, all members of the report?
Yes.
Councillor?
I'm just very happy to support the application. I've seen evidence of it myself when I'm actually been in New Ferry, and I think it's important that the problem's tackled. It's unfair that people should feel intimidated when they're walking about. This is an area that's struggling to keep going anyway. They don't need anything else happening to make the situation worse. I want to encourage people into the area to use the shops safely and comfortably without being hassled or bothered, by seeing drunkards about the street. So I fully support it.
Councillor Williams? I think Councillor Williams? You want to say something?
Yeah, I support it.
And I think, take the point as well, when you think about it, and when we take it for granted, we get hundreds and hundreds of people every day come all over the country to visit Post-Online Village, and go to the local shops to see what's going around the area. It's not a very good sort of point anyway. So what, just give a bit of guidance here. So members resolve to approve designated public place order in respect of the area of New Ferry identified in Appendix 2 to the report, which is page 31. So, unless we get that to move, can someone move that?
I'll move it.
Yeah. Second. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay. No against, no abstentions. Okay? Okay.
Steve?
Don't go for cigarettes.
That's what I called it.
I did advise that we would notify there are some representatives of the tax free outside, but we didn't want to be
That's fine.
Do you have to finish?
Thank you.
Councillors, appreciate it. See you again.
Thanks, Sam.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
When there's two
The members of the public, the taxi drivers, did want to come in on the other items. Now, that's what
We asked them the same question.
All right, John. Right, the next item is second, but before we start, I've got two people dedicated to speak. It's Dad Tubman and Mr. Geary. I thought you get those. And can I just say that before I ask you to speak anyway, but Mark's going to speak to the item, but before I do, we have Mr. Grace Filman. The committee have agreed to it to confirm subject to, you've just entered now the room, have you got any objections?
As long as you don't get the ball.
Okay. What I have said, if there's any exempt or personal items, then I'll ask you to stop. Okay? Okay, Margaret.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is for members to consider the outcome of consultation that has taken place in respect of a review of the current age policy relating to the licensing of private hire vehicles and determine whether there should be any change to the current policy. The current private hire licence criteria does not allow a vehicle to be licensed beyond the age of 8 years from the date of first registration, unless the council is satisfied that the vehicle is suitable, having regard to mileage, appearance, condition and safety features. This criteria relating to the age of the vehicle was imposed to improve the standard of vehicles being licensed for private hire. They are currently issued on a 12-monthly basis. However, once a vehicle reaches 6 years old, 6 monthly licenses are issued until the vehicle reaches 8 years old. The current practice is that if a vehicle reaches 8 years old and the proprietor considers it to be an exceptional condition, an application is made to re-license the vehicle. And members of this committee will be familiar with the process that vehicles are subsequently brought before them as a licensing panel for their consideration in terms of whether or not they should be granted licenses beyond 8 years of age. In terms of the legislation that governs the licensing of private hire vehicles, the legislation set out that the council may license a private hire vehicle if it is satisfied that the vehicle is suitable in type, size and design for use as a private hire vehicle, that it doesn't conflict with the appearance of a carriage vehicle, that it's suitable in mechanical state, that it's safe and comfortable, and that there is a policy of insurance in force. These are factors and matters that members are familiar with, and also in respect of guidance issued related to taxi and private hire vehicle best practice does indicate that an upper age policy may not be appropriate, and instead that twice yearly testing should take place for vehicles over a certain age. And they provide an example of twice yearly testing for vehicles more than 5 years old. As members are aware, in respect of the current policy, we have undertaken a consultation, and the results of the consultation are held within the report. There is evidence from the consultation that suggests that most of those who have responded to the question of what age a licence should be given to a private hire vehicle, that 52% of those consulted or of those responded to the consultation suggest that a vehicle should be 10 years old or less than 10 years old. In terms of when a vehicle should be tested, there really is no overwhelming response in terms of whether or not it should be changed from the current requirement of being tested every 6 months once the vehicle reaches 6 years old. Also within the report are details of the current policies that are applied by neighbouring local authorities. In addition, Chair, as indicated at the start of the item, there are representatives here of the trade who wish to address you and the committee regarding this matter. And I also, as I have mentioned to you, that there has been an email received by myself today from somebody who is asking if their thoughts can be also relayed to the committee this evening, and that is a matter for you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, and Mark's got an email from the committee. It's not fair, it's not personal.
No, Chair. It's from someone who has actually seen the agenda for this particular item and would like it to be included. That there are some questions related to the licensing of vehicles that they want some information on, but what they want members to consider is that a standard MOT allows vehicles to travel safely on the road regardless of age, as is also the case for children's school buses are regulated by the licensing department. Surely the compliance test should provide sufficient proof a happy carriage, sorry, this is in relation to happy carriages, of any age is suitable and safe to be licensed. So it may be that, I will have to refer back to this because there's some information just generally about taxis. But in particular, I'll bring it up again at the next item related to happy carriage vehicles as well, Chair. Thank you.
Right. Any questions on 7 of the councils? I understand we've got the 2 speakers, but item 7 is a speaker, but one speaker.
Forgive me, item 7 is regarding private hire, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I'd like to say something on that. Will I sit here or do you want to join you?
Join there, please. You've got 5 minutes to speak.
John Anthony Keeley, I live at 14 Ferryside in Wallasey. Thank you very much for giving me 5 minutes of your valuable time. What I'm concerned about is a number of factors. I have to first of all declare an interest, which is probably a greater interest than So my duty, and this is an assumption because obviously I don't know, you may know yourself, I certainly don't know, nobody outside this room who is not on this council will know if you've made a decision or not. The only one I'd like to suggest and ask that you consider that if rather than that if in 10 years, and I've no idea if it's a rhetorical remark, please don't be nice. If it were 10 years, I would humbly suggest that it might be, if not might be, it would be extremely helpful if you said, for instance, on the 1st of June you made an announcement, which is a 10-year on hire, that given the present circumstances and the difficulty of raising finance, which is, I'm sure you all know, is very, very difficult, that you might insert into that new regime, if you like, 10 years, that anyone who's, not just me, please don't just about me, but those who've got cars older than the normal, and there are quite a number of them, be given 12 months from the 1st of June, because they're registered now, to allow them to at least have the opportunity of getting some money together and financing another car. And I honestly think it's a very important fact, and I do hope to give it proper consideration.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
That's it. Right, those who respond, Mr. Cagle. Any comments? No.
Only to may assist members, it is within the report that the current, those who are currently licensed and have been licensed with the authority are actually working to an 8-year rule on their vehicles. So that's what they have in mind, is that the council not licensed vehicles beyond 8 years of age, and that's what they currently work to. Also to assist members, if you were minded to amend and review the policy this evening, there is a provision that any application that wants you to consider a vehicle outside of that policy, that you can consider that, and you can consider each application on its